If you're currently running Facebook ads and you feel like all your results have dropped off, everything is changing, you're not really sure what to do, you're looking for strategies and things that you can be doing to improve or maybe get the results that you were getting before iOS 14 set in, you should definitely watch this video because we're going to be going over the type of impact that iOS 14 has had on Facebook ads, as well as changes and strategies that you need to be implementing inside of your Facebook ad account right now so that we can get somewhat back to the results that we were getting before. Now, before we dive into all the strategies and things that you need to be changing, let's first talk about what iOS 14 has actually done to our Facebook ad account. So from a user's perspective, someone actually going on their phone and logging into a Facebook or Instagram app or any app on the iOS device, they're gonna get a pop-up like this asking if they allow insert name of the app they're currently using. This is a screenshot we took from Roku. But do you allow Roku to track your activity across other companies' apps and website? And then it explains why in very fine print that most people probably aren't going to read. Now, some people may knowingly read this and consciously decide, ask app not to track. But for the majority of people who kind of just want to get rid of that thing showing up, they don't know what iOS 14 is or what the impacts that it has on their mobile device, they're most likely just going to press the first button that appears, which is ask app not to track. By default, our brain just wants to press that first button, not the one at the bottom, where typically you'll see the response that you want to appear on the top. So usually it'd be yes and then no. But here it's actually no and then yes. So by default, there's a little bit of psychology going on here that Apple has implemented. Is by default that we want to press the ask app not to track without even possibly reading it. So it's unknowingly pressing ask app not to track. Now, as a result of this, Apple has just come out with a study showing that about 5% of all iOS 14 users, 5% have opted in to tracking. So for many of the people in the Western society who are advertising on Facebook, most of the people have an Apple device. They're using a MacBook, they're using iPhones, iPads. That's just the things that we're using here. So only 5% of your total audience using an Apple device is allowing you to track their data. So if you've been seeing a drop in your Facebook ad results, it's because Facebook is having a hard time finding the people in your audiences that you're targeting because many of them are not allowing you to track their data. Now, obviously, this has a huge impact on advertisers because they're not able to track the activity that's happening across different apps, resulting in you not being able to show them a personalized ad, which we all know personalized ads are what actually make an advertiser money, as well as Facebook. So Facebook is pretty pissed about this, but Apple seems that they feel like they're doing the right thing because they're allowing more privacy. So this is a huge scandal going on right now if you're a Facebook advertiser, and most likely what you've seen as a result of this is, first of all, delayed reporting inside of your ads manager. It could be up to 3 days before you actually see the data that's happening. It's not in very real time anymore, as well as there's no breakdown feature available. So if you were using dynamic creative and testing out different variables like images and text and headlines inside of the same ad, you no longer have that breakdown feature, which is one of the biggest things that I don't like about it. But as well as some advertisers are literally seeing such a drop in results that they're even wondering themselves if it's even worth it to advertise on Facebook. If the only place that you're looking is inside of your ads manager for the results, for tracking and seeing what's going on, this is most likely scaring you off and you're wondering, what the heck should I do before I just pause all of my Facebook ad campaigns? So let's actually dive into that. And before we actually get into the strategies, there's a few technical things that need to be done before you actually get into changing your ads or any of the audiences inside of your ads manager. So the first thing is that you need to verify your domain, as well as set up aggregated events inside of your events manager. Now, I'm not going to be going through these. These are kind of more of a technical side of things, and you can actually check out our other video. So you can go check out those videos if you haven't done so already, but I know that there's lots of videos and you've probably already done that. And aside from doing more of these technical things, what are other things that you can do? Because even then, even if you have these things set up, you might still be seeing a huge drop in results. So I have a few strategies that you can be using if you're not already to combat this iOS 14 update and make it so your ads are actually still performing relatively well. So these tips are not in chronological order of importance. They're just a few things that I've seen to actually work. So, you can do number 5 first or number 1 first. It doesn't matter. The first thing is to stack your interests. So in the past, you were really able to get really down nitty gritty to that specific person, choosing just a few, very specific interests with the interest and this or this. Now, what I've found to be really helpful is stacking a few interests together that are relatively similar. So for example, we're running ads for a lingerie company, and what I've done is I've searched up their competitors, some of the ones that are actually available in the Facebook ad interest, and stacked a few on top of each other. Now, from there, with the interest, I add no other targeting to my detailed targeting. Even if lingerie is just for women, or men, I don't know, but pieces are mostly made for women, I'm not going to exclude the men. I'm going to keep that completely open, as well as the region. I'm just going to keep the country completely open. So one thing with iOS 14 is that Facebook needs a lot of data and a lot of options to choose from because, like I said, the majority of people are going to be opting out from that tracking. So you want to make sure that even if you are using this interest, you're stacking them on top of each other, as well as keeping everything else very, very broad. The second thing is to make sure that if you're using custom audiences, if the custom audience came from external sources, such as inside of your Shopify store, you download it and export it and then import it to Facebook, make sure that you're also keeping your lookalike audience very large. So we'll actually start at least 5% to 10% of a lookalike audience to make sure that Facebook has a lot of people to choose from. We've seen that when you're creating a custom audience from a source that's outside of Facebook, like a customer list, if you're doing it only at 1%, it doesn't really allow enough people for Facebook to choose from. Whereas if you're choosing a lookalike audience from things that are happening on Facebook, such as your page engagement, page likes, or video views. This is the type of data that Facebook is allowed to track. So these things that you can narrow down to a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, and make those audiences a little bit smaller because they're able to track that data. But if it's coming from external sources, like a customer list, an email list, make sure you're keeping that lookalike audience 5% and above. 3 is to turn on your detailed targeting expansion. So when you're inputting your audiences and on the ad set level, you're able to choose detailed targeting expansion, and this will choose people outside of your desired targeting if they're likely to take an action that you want. So make sure that you turn that on, because if 75% of the people in your audience have opted out of tracking, then maybe there's someone from outside of your audience that looks more like the people in that 25%, let's just say I'm just throwing numbers around, then Facebook will search for that person and show your ad to that person. But limiting it just to your specific audience could be leaving out a lot of potential from people outside of that audience. Another thing is to reduce the total number of ads that you're currently running. So reduce the amount of tests or the amount of total ads that you have to between 3 and 6. We found that this is kind of like the hot spot between having enough variation but also being able to test it out. But when there's just too much, then we can see a drop in results. So make sure you're keeping it between 3 to 6 ads for each ad set. In terms of retargeting, there's a couple things that you can do here. It's really difficult right now to retarget your website visitors specifically. So you have that as a specific ad set, then you're probably seeing a pretty big drop in results, especially like if this is something that you really saw a lot of profit off of. This is one of the audiences that are probably getting the most affected. So one thing that you can do is stack your retargeting audiences. Add together your website visitors, potentially your add to carts, if those are similar audiences, or if you could put those ad sets together, as well as if you're creating a retargeting audience, you could create a 1% to 2% lookalike of your current customer list, and also insert that with your retargeting audiences so that the 1% to 2% lookalike of your current customers sort of trains Facebook to find the people from your retargeting audiences and show the ads to them. So I found that that's actually worked out pretty well. That's kind of some early step tests that we're doing, but we found that even just the larger that you can make your audience, the better it is. And by doing this, you're adding valuable people that have already purchased a lookalike of those kind of people with your retargeting audience. So that's another thing that you can do. And last but absolutely not least, like I said, this is not in any sort of chronological order, is to simply just improve your creative. So this is going to be the number one indicator of if your ads are going to perform or not. And just making sure that you're constantly checking even just which one is getting the most reach. If you're not getting the conversions that you want, a lot of the time where the budget is going or where the reach is going is mostly going to determine what kind of ads your audience is liking. Or maybe there's just really one ad that's really outperforming the others. You want to make sure that you're constantly improving your creatives. Now, there's a few rules of thumb that I found have worked really well. And the first one is that videos, we've been saying this for a really long time, but videos win, and especially right now, especially in a prospecting campaign where you're targeting cold audiences, videos are going to be the winner above everything else. And not just videos that are slideshows. I found that slideshows really aren't performing well of just still images going by, but a video that actually kind of looks like something that you would find on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, or that sort of content that looks very native to the platform. So it's describing what it's about, what it does for you, the benefits, the features, and it doesn't have to be a high production or look really professional. Sometimes those are actually the ones that perform the best. Is those like things that looks like it was taken on your own phone, maybe your iPhone, and it was posted as an ad and looks really native to the things that you're naturally just scrolling and looking at on Facebook or Instagram. So I actually have a full video of 5 Facebook ad creatives that actually convert. That's actually one of the tactics that we use. But I'll also link that in the description because you should definitely check that one out. And I feel like that having that as a swipe file on my own computer so that when we're creating ads, I can take a look at that and just see what have we done so far, what can we be testing next. But making sure that you're constantly trying and testing new creatives for your Facebook ads, because that is going to be the front-facing view of what they see of your brand, right? If they don't like the ad, they're just going to keep going, and Facebook's going to have an even harder time trying to find those people because they're just not engaging. So make sure that you're constantly testing out those creatives. And now in terms of retargeting, yes, images can perform relatively well. This is where you're kind of just reminding the people to come back to your site. So it's not as important to have something that's like really engaging and really eye-catching. So these is where you can put an image, but if you can afford or if it's feasible to do video content and to try out new things and even just like user-generated content, that kind of stuff is pretty simple to do and it's really worthwhile testing it out. So that was 6 changes and strategies that you can be making to your Facebook ads right now to sort of overcome the hump that we're seeing with iOS 14 and the drop in results potentially, and really what do you want to be doing aside from all the technical stuff. And so before you go in, you try to change your budget, you try to change the objective from conversion to traffic before you do other things that you might think might be technically related to iOS 14 and that maybe the tracking issues, is to make sure your audiences are big enough and to make sure your ad creatives are good. So make sure that you're always checking out these 6 things that I've kind of just listed out there. So before you go, one thing I will ask is that if you found value from this video, obviously hit that like button and also subscribe to our channel if you kind of like this. If you have any more questions, comments, concerns, you can put them in the comment section below. We'll definitely get back to you. And if you've already tried these out or you're still having issues, also let us know in those comments below and potentially we can help you out. So that's all for today. Have a great rest of your day and we'll see you in the next video.